without even trying, I think we kind of became the Chinese theme park aficionados. We just really enjoy traveling to China, Alex and I, and so we just find ourselves there for theme park trips quite frequently. And realizing it more and more, we just started getting questions from people like, "Oh, how do you do this? Which park would you do?" And we kind of started just giving advice to people like what they should do, which parks I should visit. And then we got some feedback from people that were traveling to China and they were listening to our Chinese episodes, and it was nice to see that without really trying, people really started thinking of us like, okay, these guys know their China stuff. So that brought us to a point where we of course are releasing a lot of China content, but maybe it's really important that we discuss everything that's not the exact theme park. And like, how do you actually plan a trip? What are the apps that you need? How do you book a train? Like what we do, Alex and I personally, to have all these trips, which I would like to say are pretty successful. We've had nothing but amazing times. So that's what this episode is going to be all about today. And I'm joined by Sven in this episode.
Yeah, and also like, you guys talk about areas and cities in China like it's common knowledge, but it's not. So this is also to help us and guide us through the different regions of China and what parks you can find. Because did you know that HB World is now called Suzhou Yangcheng Peninsula Theme Park? And the park is known for the B&M wing coaster Heaven's Wing, for example.
Or as I like to call it, Wings of Glory, because everything in China seems to have multiple names.
Okay, so that doesn't make it easier again.
It does not at
but
all,
at least, I think also like the major coasters will guide us through the areas in China. And then based on that, you can also decide, okay, like what are the parks that I want to visit and what areas in China interest me most besides the basics.
Because I think that if you're, for example, like a big intimate person, or you're like a wing coaster person, or you want to just hit the classic, like the first big batch of the big Chinese e-ticket roller coasters, there's like little regions you can visit to do those. So that's a great way of looking at it. And a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Sean.
And this is Sven.
And you're listening to another episode of Coaster Kings. And today is all about Chinese theme park trip planning for dummies. Is that the official name we've settled on?
Yeah, I think it's Chinese theme parks for dummies. And I am the dummy that will be the person asking all the questions, because actually, I have a trip planned next year to Asia for the first time in my life. And there will be some Chinese parks in there. So it fits perfectly to help me prepare my trip. And I'm sure there's other people that have been listening to you guys and seeing all the pictures and videos and are like, yeah, I want to go to China now. So this episode will help you to plan your trip, to decide on where to go, and to also get a better understanding of the Chinese theme parks. Because, as I mentioned, for some people, there's cities like Wuxi and
Wuxi, yeah,
Chengdu, or even obviously I might mispronounce some of these.
And if so,
cities
I'll just correct you. And that's
perfect.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. But I guess we can start from like the basic destinations, and this is the theme parks that I kind of consider that most people would in the theme park world will at least have heard about it. And it's also centered around like cities in China that are quite known or famous, let's say. So if we take these basic destinations and we start in the north of China, obviously we have the capital, Beijing. And in the Beijing area, it's more known now as a theme park destination because of Universal Studios Beijing. And I think some people have heard of Happy Valley Beijing as well, where it already shows how creative and strange the coaster names can be, because one of the major coasters there is Flight of the Himalayan Eagle Music Roller Coaster.
That's
or
right.
Is there also a different name?
No, well, as far as I know, that's the only name, the only English name that they've listed for it. But funny thing about Beijing is I think people think about Beijing and they just think of that city only. But right next to Beijing is Tianjin, and Tianjin is kind of like the port city, but they're both really, really big. So they're both considered tier 1 cities in China, meaning that they are their own almost like provincial status. They're really big and they have their own kind of like limited governments. So, but they're practically like one. It feels like the lines are so blurred that when you're in Beijing, getting to Tianjin takes like 30 minutes. Like, it's so easy.
I was about to say, how far is it? So it's 30 minutes to get from one place to the other.
Yeah,
approximately.
So, and then just, of course, you kind of want to see which train stations are closest, and maybe I'm walking ahead a little bit here, but most Chinese cities have a lot of train stations, and some are in the outskirts, some are in the center. So sometimes the names of them are more named after the districts that they're in. So you may not realize that Tianjin has like a train station that's close to the ports, which is also where, for example, Fantasyland would be, the Fantasyland Dreamland in Tianjin. And that's only like a 30-minute train ride from the Beijing South Station, which is really close to the center of Beijing. So if you just take a train there and then you take a Didi, which is like a Chinese Uber, we'll talk about it later, to the park, it's all really convenient, even though when you think about like, oh, that's a different city and you have to go to the outskirts of the city, it's really easy to just do that. And I think we'll discuss kind of that method later.
Yeah, because maybe also good to mention is that I made a Google Maps map with the Coaster Kings in China destinations so far. And you'll see that Beijing and Taijing, is that Taijing?
It's Tianjin, yeah.
Tianjin are the North China area on the map. So, I mean, the way they are divided, the different theme parks, is a bit, I would say loosely, but based on the general map of China, and then based on the provinces also. Originally, I wanted to do it as provinces, but I only had 10 layers, so I had to be creative. But so, in the north of China, we have the Beijing area. And then in the south, obviously, there's Hong Kong, with Hong Kong Disneyland and Ocean Park, and a park that's quite infamous among Coaster Kings fans, the Chimelong Ocean Kingdom.
That's right. Which, for the record, Chimelong Ocean Kingdom is in the mainland. So if you do want to visit that when you're going to Hong Kong, just make sure that you can enter the mainland, which usually has different visa requirements. But for Sven's little Belgian passport, it's clearly nothing to worry about.
But and also, it's based on the map that I've put them in the same area, because obviously it could be quite far from each other. And I'm glad you mentioned
the map, because actually I just had some followers reach out, and actually a personal friend too. They were kind of asking like, well, where is everything? I want to do a couple parks, and I have 3 days to work with between Tokyo and Hong Kong. Like, what should I do? And this map, it's actually really useful because it really shows you where stuff is. Because we're going to, of course, we have so many episodes lined up. We're going to talk about a lot of theme parks and a lot of different regions. So what I would advise is go to thecoasterkings.com, and then the most recent episode, if you're listening to this one, is the newest episode. We'll have the map linked in there, and you can just kind of see our overall Coaster Kings China map. And then maybe that will kind of help you also, when we're talking about stuff, kind of visualize where it is. And I want to give a big thanks to Sven, because I sent Sven a big list, a big old list of all the parks, and then Sven went and like made a giant map out of it, which is really useful. So thank you, Sven, for doing that.
Yeah, and it also helped to guide this episode. Because then the third area that I consider like people know about is, of course, the Shanghai area. And that's because of Shanghai Disneyland. I also now added the new Legoland Shanghai, because I feel like the image of the coaster in front of the giant Lego minifigure went quite viral.
Instant icon, yeah.
yeah, and you also have a Happy Valley Shanghai there as well. So, and the Shanghai area is also, I put it in East China, and I feel like East China has the most theme parks.
I mean, probably
relatively together.
I feel like it's more. It's kind of like most countries where the coasts are like the most developed. And just like China, like all on the coast, there's like major cities, many of which you probably haven't heard of, but they're decent sized cities. And of course, Shanghai is massive and commercially probably the oldest when it comes to like global commerce. So there's a lot in that area. And then even there's 2 bordering provinces that have quite a bit of theme parks, Zhejiang and Jiangsu. And those 2 provinces alone, like you think, okay, well, Shanghai, but Shanghai is another one of those tier 1 cities. So it's not in a province. It is its own city. So it borders Jiangsu and Zhejiang. So you can really easily get to Ningbo and to like Changzhou, Nanjing, Wuxi, Suzhou, and those are all right there. Like Suzhou is like a 30-minute train ride from central Shanghai. Like it's all bullet trains, right? But it's like a 30-minute bullet train. So Suzhou, Amusement Forest World, super easy to do. Wuxi, Sunek Land. I mean, I was just on a 1-day layover just a couple months ago, and I just hopped over to Wuxi for the day. Like it's all like Shanghai as a region, you can do almost 2 weeks there of just theme parks and like do different parks every day.
Yeah, but then, so yeah, I think that area will go a bit deeper at the end of the episode, together with other more advanced areas for China theme park traveling. And then we can kind of do it based on like major roller coasters. So we'll get into that more towards the end of the episode. But now let's start planning. Yeah, let's take the example of Shanghai. So we arrive in Shanghai and we've done Shanghai Disneyland or even Legoland Shanghai. I feel like public transport from the episodes that I've listened to and from you guys' stories, public transport is kind of the way to go in China.
Yeah, I mean, I will say we use a really healthy mix of using public transit. Like for long distance, we always use trains. And we kind of mentioned this, I think, in our previous episode about the 2 big incidents in China, that using bullet trains is super smart because you can go really, really far in a very short time. So you can still do parks that are really far away or kind of have flexibility. By like, say the weather is really good in one city one day and bad in another, you can kind of move your plans around, right? And just use bullet trains. So we do use trains a lot, and I do love the train system in China. It's pretty affordable and it's efficient and it's always on time, comfortable. It's just a good experience in my opinion. You just have to get there early, be disciplined. You know, like it's kind of a process, almost like an airport. You go through security, then you go to your platform, and then at the platform you have to do a passport check because your passport is your ticket. Then you go down to the platform, and then you board your train. And it's kind of a process, but it's always the same across the whole system. So like once you've done it, you know how it works.
What do you mean with your passport is your ticket?
So in China, pretty much every single thing is linked to you as a person. So say if you go to Shanghai Disneyland, you cannot buy tickets without putting in your passport number and showing up with your passport, and they scan your passport and that's your ticket, right? Like you go in using your passport, that's your personal identifier. If you're a mainland Chinese citizen, then you use your Chinese ID card. Now, if you go to Universal Beijing, same thing. You only buy your tickets online. You put in your document number, and then their machines can pretty much read every international passport, right? So you put your passport on a machine, and then it just reads your passport number and finds your ticket in the system, and then you can just walk through the gate. And that's pretty much how everything in China works. The same goes when it comes down to train tickets. So you book it with your passport number and the name that matches, of course, in your passport. And then when you get to the station, you hand over your passport at a manual counter, because you don't have a Chinese ID card, so you can't use the self-use gates. But then some agent will just type in your passport number real quick, and will confirm you have a ticket leaving from the station within the next few hours. And then you can walk through, go through security. And then when you get to the platform itself, at the boarding gate, for your train. It's all really like an airport. You then go to the manual channel. So always go to the manual channel if you're using a passport that's not Chinese. And then you just put your passport on the plate, and then the computer will read your passport number. And we'll be like, all right, great. Like, this person has a seat on this train, and then it lets you through onto the platform. And if for some reason your passport doesn't scan, I've had it a couple times, the agent would just type in your number, standing there at the gate to the platform, and then you'll just walk in. But yeah, so for a lot of things in China, you need your passport as your identifier. That is your ticket. Some natural monuments, some national parks. It's kind of the same thing for all of it. So you always have to carry your passport with you. Alex and I have our own little Chinese passport folders that we use. They're just passport folders, but we use them only in China. And so we put our passport in there. We put one U.S. credit card each in there, because credit cards are accepted in a lot of places, but you barely use them. We'll get to that in a little bit. And then I carry some cash with me in there. And that's pretty much it. That is my go-to. That's all I need when I travel in China. Is I need my cell phone with internet connection, of course. For pretty much every single thing I do. And the rest, I have a little backup cash, one backup credit card, and my passport is my ticket to the world. And that's it. And I put in a Ziploc bag because it rains. Sometimes you ride a water ride. You don't want your passport getting damaged. So like I have a little Ziploc bag around it. It sounds cheesy, but it's been the golden method that I've used for like years now. Hopefully that answers your question. I know it's a little long, but...
Yeah, no, it gave me a few other questions, but first, I think you also mentioned that it's best to book these trains beforehand, right?
Yes. So I personally use Trip.com. You can use the Chinese train network, the Chinese rail network website as well, but I prefer Trip because I find their customer service to be really good. So if I book a Trip.com ticket, right, I just have the app downloaded. So I can just go and be like, all right, I'm on a train from Guangzhou to, I don't know, Changsha. And I want it on this day. And it shows me the station options in Guangzhou, station options in Changsha. And then time of day, I can select several ticket types, like classes of service. I can select several different types of trains I'm willing to take. And then Trip.com, if the booking isn't open yet, it'll just put in a reservation for you. And then the moment that tickets go on sale, they'll just book it for you. So you don't have to sit and wait for tickets to go on sale, especially sometimes of the year. If you go around holidays in May or in October or late September, or you go around Lunar New Year, these tickets can be gone within like seconds. They evaporate. So you want to do that in advance. And then I don't have time to put alarms. I'm always flying, so I'm like in the air and I'm not able to just like book a train ticket. So Trip.com just does it for me, and I get a confirmation saying, all right, this is the train we booked for you. These are the seats you got. And if you have to cancel, you can just cancel your train ticket. Depending on how late you cancel, there may be a small fee attached to it, but a few bucks to me is not that big of a deal for flexibility. If I'm already going all the way out there, if I have to change my trains last minute, for me, it's not a big deal. And then Trip.com will just like process that for you. They have like people waiting at train stations that will process ticket changes, because a lot of stuff is done in person still, but by doing it via Trip.com, they handle all of that, and the customer service has been great. I have chatted with a live agent so many times, and they get my stuff handled right away. So I would recommend using that, especially because it takes the pressure off of having to sit there and book it yourself exactly when the train tickets go on sale on the Chinese rail website. And Trip.com does all of it for you.
And you said that you need to go to the manual identification with your passport.
Yeah, it's just called manual channel.
But how do you read the signs where it says manual? Like, does it have English or?
So the thing in China is like, sometimes you'll expect English and there will be zero English. But sometimes it's like, man, you just kind of know. Well, maybe you just kind of know what it says. Like, if maybe you don't. I don't know. Like, I
China
can recognize.
I
can recognize the Chinese characters, and I know what like departure times, and I know I know my train number. Train number is always going to be in. Where everyone in the world uses Arabic numerals. So like, your train number is your train number, and your departure time matches, and then. Everything else is going to be in Mandarin, strictly on the departure boards. So like the destinations in Mandarin, train status, boarding status, that's all in Mandarin. But first of all, if you really wish, you could just use your little, your like Google Lens
Google
or like
Translate,
Google Translate and
like
translate
that,
the board. If not, every single time if you found the right platform, right? So if you see your train number, your train departure time, and the platform, those are all in numericals. So you can just figure out, okay, that's my platform. And you get to your platform and you see your train number listed. The moment your train number turns green, it means that they're accepting boarding. So that's when the manual lane will be processing. Now, in general, I would say they start boarding about 15 to 25 minutes before, depending on how busy the train is, depending if it's a start station or if it's a station in between. So I always line up early because I don't want to say I'm like an anxious person, but I'm definitely someone who like doesn't want to F around to find out. So like,
especially
I'll just, like,
in that country,
I just get in line for the manual check, maybe like 3 minutes before I expect the boarding to open, and I just kind of play it by ear. If I know it's an 8-car vehicle, and this is way too detailed, don't worry about any of this, but if I know if it's like an 8-car train or a 16-car train, I'll be like, all right, well, they're gonna board earlier because like 16 cars, a lot more people to process. Or if the boarding area is slammed, it's early in the morning in Shanghai, I know the trains are originating there, so I get in line early because I know there's gonna be like, and probably like a couple hundred, if not 1,000 people on that train. So it's just like, you just line up whenever you're ready, really. Like, if you don't mind standing for a little bit, just line up. And that way, when the manual channel opens, you can just like give your passport to that agent and they'll put it on and scan you in.
Okay.
But that'll be in English, the manual channel sign, always.
Okay. So that's more about transport. Now about staying at places. When you look for hotels, do you look at Booking, or what do you find the best place to make reservations
real quick,
for hotels?
Before we move on to that, I do want to mention, you mentioned public transit, and I think I've already really talked about the trains. Most cities in China have metros, and it's easy to acquire a metro card digitally. If you go to Beijing or Shanghai, you can use your credit card. So that's important. We'll talk about how to acquire a digital Metro Pass, which is really easy. We'll discuss that in a little bit when we talk about apps. Other than that, but we'll talk about all that when we discuss apps, because it's all rolled into one place in China. It's like a super app. So moving on to hotels, I would always recommend stick with a Western hotel chain. If you are like, especially for my American listeners, because this is much more of an American thing, like loyalty programs. You know, we're all stuck with this loyalty program that we like use and abuse. For me, it's Marriott. So I always use my Marriott Bonvoy account to book all my trips in China. And I would recommend sticking with a Western hotel for several reasons. One, because you are moving around in China, you are required to register with the local police at every place you go. Now, that sounds intimidating, but if you stay with a friend's house, you're supposed to go to the police office and be like, hey, I'm staying at my friend's house. This is my information. Now, when you go to a hotel, the hotel does that for you. Having said that, smaller hotels in China, especially ones that are not big Western chains, are not always equipped with that technology to scan your passports and like provide that information to the police, right? So, but when you go to like a big Marriott, or you go to like a Hilton, or you go to a Hyatt, anything like that, they'll be able to just register you for you. So when you go to the front desk, you check in, they take your passports, you just put it on the machine, or they run to the back office and do it. It's really normal that they take your passports for a little bit, and sometimes you're like, where's my passport? That's just normal. Like, everything, again, is passport in China. So that's one of the big reasons to do that. They just do all that processing for you. Second of all, they usually speak English, and even if it's broken English, it's enough to communicate. So if you need some help with transportation, you need help figuring out how you want to get to the Buddha of Lashan or to this theme park, you know, they'll probably be able to help. They have concierge desks. And they're generally speaking in like easy to reach areas. You're usually, if you need to find it on like a Didi, like say you're taking an Uber, Didi is what it's called in China, to their hotel. You're going to be able to find it in English on the Didi app. It'll be listed in English, like, oh, Westin Changsha or whatever, right? Sheraton Changsha. Stuff like that is just easy. And there's the Western hotel chains are all over China. At least I think I would say one per city. Like Changsha, there was a couple in Changsha, but then in Guilin we've only found one. There's some cities there's not as many, but you'll always find one. It's not hard.
Okay, so that's the best way to have our hotels. We have some bullet train tickets maybe booked in advance. Are there other things we need to prepare in advance before we leave to China?
Yes. So let me see where I left off. So the biggest thing here is you're going to have these two apps installed. So grab a pen and paper. Without these apps, you're hopeless in China. Don't even go. So number one, you need Alipay. 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 Now, Alipay is what we call a super app. And this app is my best friend. It's your best friend when you go to China because literally every single thing happens in this app. And then within the app, there are mini apps. And it's great because literally everything in the whole world is in Alipay. I feel like sometimes I go to China and the only single app I use the entire time is Alipay. Because in Alipay, lo and behold, besides the mini apps, which I'll discuss in a minute, you can set up a payment method. Now, why is this important? Because a lot of places in China either don't accept your credit card or they only accept digital payment forms, such as Alipay. So you want to put your bank cards in there. You want to verify your identity by uploading your passport. So it can verify that the payment method you added is actually your payment method, so you're not like fraudulent. You want to do all that before you leave your home country. Last thing you want to do is like show up in China, be at the airport in Pudong, and then like struggle to find a ride, struggle to pay for your ride, because most likely the taxi is going to ask you to pay for with Alipay or WeChat. So you want all that set up before you even leave and go to China. So when you have it set up with your payment and you have your identity uploaded, you can start using your bank cards. So inside the Alipay app, there's going to be a function that says pay or receive. You click on that, and then you literally just like, it shows up a QR code. Now, whichever vendor or taxi driver or whoever is going to charge you, they will just scan your QR code, and that's how you pay. And then depending on the amount, I have it set to a certain amount of yuan that I had to type in my little passcode in order for it to finish the transaction. It's a comfort thing. If you don't care what people charge and like whatever, I just always make sure I know the number, if it's a high number, before I accept or like agree to pay it. I mean,
I care about what people charge me, so
yeah. So I mean, I've only had it like once or twice. People really trying to take advantage of me, but then like, you know, I will argue about the price of something if I know what it's worth and I know what I'm going to get charged. But at this point, I know not to let people take advantage of me of pretty much anything anymore. I will argue and then I'll pay, right? But that's a different story. So in that same app, you have mini apps, right? So mini apps include like a Disney app or a Universal app. In fact, you can't even get the Universal app on Western stores anymore. You can only get it within Alipay, WeChat, or like on a Chinese web store. App store, I should say. Fanta Wild has a mini app, and you can buy your tickets in advance in there. You can buy your Universal Express Pass in there. You buy your Disney, Shanghai Disneyland tickets and your Fast Passes or whatever Premier Access in there. And so it's all like in these little apps. Now I get my coffee. I order it ahead. I lay in bed. I'm like, oh, I want a coffee. I order my coffee in the mini app, and then I pick it up. Why do you need this app? Alipay? Because a lot of stores in China no longer accept in-person ordering. So you want a coffee from Luckin Coffee, you're going to have to go ahead and order it on the phone, and then you get a QR code to pick up your order when it's ready. You want to get KFC, same thing. Like some of the most simple stuff is almost exclusively online ordering. So you want to just do it in a mini app. So KFC is a mini app, Starbucks is a mini app. Everything that you can possibly have is an app, or any possible restaurant or service will have an app that's like a mini app, a mini program in there.
But so I'm surprised it's Alipay and not WeChat, because I've mostly heard about WeChat as a Chinese app.
I was going to get to WeChat in just a second. They fill very similar functions. I just personally prefer using Alipay. And the reason I like Alipay so much is because they're also really quick when it comes to your public transit cards. So when I get a public transit card on Alipay, all I have to do, like I have it set up for almost every city, because you change your city or you show up in a city, all it does is it asks you to verify your identity, which is oftentimes already done with your uploaded document. It'll just provide you a locally registered digital transport card. So like, and pretty much every single city I've showed up on this map that has a metro, I've used it. And I just like, I'm at dinner, I'm like, oh, let's take the metro back to the hotel. And like within 30 seconds, I have a digital metro card registered in my name. And I can show up to the gates and I scan my QR code on and off, and it charges me. I find this very, very comfortable. User friendliness is amazing. There's always a hovering little tab that says translate. You can just press on the translate tab. It translates everything in there into English for you. I prefer Alipay personally, but I do use both. I have WeChat. There's going to be times where there's mini apps or mini programs promoted inside of a theme park, like on-ride videos or on-ride photos, that are going to be like a circular QR code, if that's the way to describe it, like a circular kind of scannable thing. And that usually indicates that it's for WeChat and probably WeChat only. So then I can scan it with my WeChat scanner, and then I'll use a mini program in there. Or sometimes, like Legoland, for example, I think they only let you buy it on WeChat. Some services only allow Alipay, some services only allow WeChat. Most of them allow both. I would recommend definitely downloading both. I just personally prefer using Alipay because I always use it for my primary payments. I prefer it, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. They're both pretty heavily used. My experience with Alipay is just much grander, and I have better experience with it.
So is that it for apps, or?
Well, and the Trip.com app, of course. Those are the three apps. Because again, these are, Alipay is a mega app, right? So is WeChat. So they do everything in there. So that's the only thing you need, because everything you can do in there. You can book and the biggest thing I want to mention is you need Didi, which is DIDI. That's how we get around China instead of using taxis. It's like a ride share or a ride hailing. They call it e-hailing in China. So if you're ever looking for where to get picked up at like a train station, it's usually called e-hailing. And then usually all the signage is in orange because Didi is orange, their logo. But yeah, we always order Didi. I think we use 82 Didis, Sven, on our most recent trip. So we use a lot of Didis, dude. So, and it's really affordable. I mean, sometimes it's a 20-minute drive for like $2, really cheap. It tells you you can put in exactly where you want to go. Oftentimes entrances on each side of whatever you're doing. And then it tells you the driver information. Now it's really Western friendly. You can just type in English in it, which used to be difficult to type in English. Now you can do it in English. So, really easy to just get around from point A to point B really quickly. And there are usually always DDs available. I think there's more DDs than there's people that need DDs. Everyone is a DD driver. So really easy to use. No waits.
Okay. And so obviously to use the apps, what do I need to do with my phone? Do I need a VPN? Do I need an eSIM probably for China network?
Actually, I would recommend use whatever provider you have in your home country and get like an international plan for like however long you're going, like an international add-on or something. Because when you use, for example, we have T-Mobile in the US, right? So when we go to China, I have international countries included. Like I'm in the Netherlands right now recording this. I have the Netherlands included, right? But China is one of those countries that is usually not included, or it's included with like really slow speeds. Now I can add like an international data pass for 5 days, 10 days, or 30 days. I usually just get the 30-day one. It's 15 gigs. And if I have to replenish it once, I replenish it once. But usually I can do it with like a maximum of 2 passes. I can do like almost a month trip. And so then what happens is when you connect to Chinese cell towers, because you're using like their network, you're using it under T-Mobile, so it connects to a US network. What that means is you don't need a VPN. I can use my Facebook, I can use my Google, I can use pretty much anything at once, like I'm at home, because it connects to the US network. And maybe the technical terms are incorrect. But long story short, I don't need to worry about VPNs. I'm on a network that's protected. My bank account information won't get stolen. Stuff like that. I prefer to use cellular all day. Sometimes when I'm at a hotel that don't want to burn through my international pass, if there's like a limit on it, then I will connect to the network, like Wi-Fi, and I will get like a VPN. VPNs are, they're not intended to be used. They don't want you to use that in China officially. I think most people do use them. I usually got whatever is the most well-reviewed one. I really like Secure VPN as an app. And what else do I have? I have a couple of VPNs. I need to look real quick. Oh, please hold. I use a couple of VPN apps. Let's VPN is another one that I use. But I only really use that if I'm like on a hotel Wi-Fi and I'm trying to upload something real quick and I'm trying to burn through all my data because I have access to easy Wi-Fi. And also one more app you should download that is not related to VPN, by the way, is AMAP, AMAP. That is like the best map for Westerners in China.
Okay.
Yeah, because Google doesn't work, Google Maps there, because it's it's blocked. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, obviously for US listeners, that might be the best solution. For European listeners, because
I have some European friends who do it like that too.
Yeah, I know, for example, that Belgium is really expensive for international activation of roaming, etc. So I'll have to have a look into that.
If for some reason you rather do eSIMs, I guess some people have a lot of problems with eSIMs, and it can be kind of frustrating. But you can, like Alipay, for example, you can just do an eSIM within Alipay. So if you just want to do eSIM, you can buy one right there in the super apps. They offer that too. So, in case it doesn't work out, but I would strongly recommend using your phone as is and just getting international roaming for your trip, even if it's expensive, because in China you need your internet every second of the day. You cannot go without it. You cannot ride the metro without your internet. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to have internet at all times.
Okay, so that's important. Are there other things to think about when traveling in China?
I already mentioned always carry your passport with you. That's a big thing. I carry cash as a backup. There's been an occasional situation where I don't even know exactly. I need to think about like a more recent situation where I use cash. I don't even use cash that often. Oh, here's a good example. So, for example, if you buy fast passes at parks like China Dinosaur Park, right? They have a mini app on WeChat, a mini program. And so, but then it requires a phone number. And it'll tell you like a list of every single country code, including US, including Belgium, UK, whatever. But then you put in your phone number and it'll tell you, oh, can send you a verification code because it's not a Chinese phone number. Well, screw that. Like, I don't have a Chinese phone number, right? So you can find a stranger and like ask them to book it on their WeChat and pay them cash. Or in our case, we just asked the staff, like, hey, do you take our cash? You book it for us. And so the staff did that on several occasions. So those situations were like, wow, I haven't used cash in China for like weeks. And then all of a sudden there's like a situation will present itself. We have to get creative and like you have to offer someone cash to do something for you. And it sounds kind of weird, but that's just the way it is. Like, if you don't have a Chinese phone number and you're trying to buy a fast pass for a roller coaster, anyone there is going to have a Chinese phone number. Anyone there is going to have WeChat or Alipay. They can get that. You just pay them cash, and then you get on the ride. That's really. I feel like people are super helpful always. I've had nothing but amazing interactions in China where people are just like so willing to help, staff or just visitors. Everyone's always curious. But sometimes you need a little cash just to compensate them for using their Chinese phone number, for example, on like an app. Yeah. So they carry cash for that, for sure.
Yeah, and you also mentioned, because you're talking about cash and money, that like, for example, for Didi's, you kind of need to pay attention that you don't get scammed. Or
so if you take a regular taxi, it's much easier to get scammed because they'll tell you like, oh, it's gonna be this much. Like, we were in Guangzhou and this guy is trying to like tell us that he's gonna charge us 200 yen for this distance that is definitely not worth more than like 60 yuan, And we're like, no, we're not going to pay that. We're not going to pay that. So we're arguing back and forth. But that's kind of one of those moments where like, yeah, you're going to pay at the end of the ride because it's a taxi. Now, I would not really recommend taxis that much unless you're like at an airport and you're at a taxi stand and you haven't figured out how Didi works. You just want to get to the hotel. Sure, use a taxi, right? But have your Alipay ready to pay at the end. Now, in Didi, you can get ripped off. It's rare, but we had it actually happen to us in Shanghai earlier this year. We were there in April, and I know exactly where my hotel is. I know exactly which district I'm in, and I booked it really strategically because I was only going to be in Shanghai for a few hours before taking a flight over to Beijing. And this taxi driver is going on this freeway that I know is not the right freeway, and he keeps going. Didi driver, I should say, keeps going, and I'm seeing on the map. You can see the route it's supposed to take, right? And sometimes they take a slightly different route because there could be traffic or, they're trying to be faster or whatever. Because there's always multiple ways to get somewhere. But this guy is going way in a different direction. He's going way towards like New Pudong area. And I'm like, no, this is not right. So I try to message Didi. I'm like, hey, like I need, my driver's going the wrong way. I need to compensate it. And then Didi says like, well, please wait for your ride to be finished and you can like, reach out to customer service and adjust it. But then sometimes Didi it knows what's going on, right? So eventually we start typing into our translator. It's like, bro, you are taking us for a ride. Like, I know, like, turn around. You're not going the right way. Follow the exact directions on Didi because that's what we selected. You can select which route you want to take on Didi. So the guy still kind of panicked and maybe realized, like, oh shit, like, they know these are not the average tourists that I can just take for a joyride and charge 100 yuan extra just for being on an hour drive to a hotel that's only 10 minutes away. Because, they're going to make my money, take you on this long drive with tolls. So we turn around, and when we get to the hotel, I got a message from Didi automatically saying like, hey, this ride was longer than it was supposed to be and more expensive than it was supposed to be. And I'm not kidding, like 500% expensive. Like, it was so, because he took a bunch of toll roads, right? And Didi honored my original rate of like 90 yuan. And then that guy just pretty much got no money. But Didi just did that for us. They were like, all right, like, you have good status with the app. A lot of things are about good status. If you don't, it's kind of one of those things where, like, if you're constantly asking for refunds, then they're less likely to give you a refund. But in this case, I've taken like a couple hundred Didis in my life on the same account. And it was like, all right, you have good standing. We're going to honor your originally booked price. And the other $500, you don't have to pay. So just keep an eye on that kind of stuff. Like, if you select long story short, if you select a route on the app, make sure that they don't stray away too far from the route. Don't be over here like Google translating, like, stick to the route right away. Like, there's reasons that people may drive a different direction. But if you can see that you're going into clearly the wrong direction or you're going really far off, and I would say this is much more likely to happen in Shanghai than anywhere else. Maybe Guangzhou, but Shanghai for sure. Because there's just much more tourism in Shanghai. The rest of China is not that touristy. A lot more domestic tourism, but I feel like they're less likely to take advantage of you. In Shanghai, they'll try to sell you stuff on the street sometimes, like watches, if you're in like the more touristy areas, or I don't know. Shanghai is like, for that reason, like the city itself, if I'm in the neighborhoods, I kind of enjoy it, but when I'm like in the really touristy areas, I feel like it's too touristy almost. It's not as bad as most cities in the world, but that's also another reason I feel like the Didi driver took advantage of us. We're two white guys pulling up in Pudong at the airport. Little does he know, it's like my 5th time this year in Shanghai, but for him, he's like, oh man, I'm going to make some extra money tonight. But no, he didn't. He made no money. Anyway, just keep an eye on that, I guess.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, like, what is like a normal rate for a Didi or a taxi?
So there's a couple of things that come into play. If you've been picked up at the airport, it's probably going to be a surcharge. Kind of like the Uber, more expensive. If you're in a big city like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, that's going to be more expensive because you're in a major city. It just kind of depends, but it's all kind of affordable. You can select which ride types you're willing to take, including taxis. It just really depends. It's just never that expensive. If it seems off, it's probably wrong. It's probably off.
Okay.
But in advance, it'll tell you how much it'll be. And you have this thing where, like, you pay, and when you first start using the app, because they don't trust you yet, you pay in advance. So you immediately agree to pay a certain amount. You pay that amount, say it's 38 yuan, right? To go for like a 15-minute drive. I don't know. Just an example. You pay that in advance. And if the drive ends up costing more because of traffic lights or because it took a slightly different route, then like when you check out or when you arrive, you're prompted to pay the extra few cents or yuan that you owe. Now, once you're in good standing with the app, which could be throughout your trip. Like, I think Alex started using Didi because I always did it. But then I was like, oh, let's like spread our resources because like we're both doing so much, right? Like, I'm dealing with train tickets right now. Like, can you just book the Didi real quick? So he started getting Didi. And then for his maybe like first 10 rides, he had to pay in advance. But then he moved to the same system I have where you just pay upon arrival. Like, you can see the prices that they expect the cost to be. You select all your options. They send a car over to you. And then when you arrive, before you can book your next one, you just have to pay your previous one. And it's just like your fingerprint, and it just pays you through Alipay. It's like it's not much work at all. You just agree to paying it. And it gets to the point where like sometimes I'll be there and then I'll take a Didi or something and I'm just like not paying attention. And then I come back like 2 months later and I'm like using Didi and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even pay my bill from 2 months ago yet. So I get paid real quick. It doesn't seem to be a big deal. So that's all really easy. But in the beginning, you'll have to pay up front. Okay. But it's all in the app.
Gotcha.
But the prices are ranging, but it's pretty cheap. It's cheap.
Gotcha.
Also, you can take them long distance, by the way. If you're really ever like, oh man, I don't know if I can take a Didi this far, you can probably take a Didi. I think the longest Didi we've taken maybe like 2.5 hours. But like you can take DDs for like long drives, and if it's maybe 2.5 or 3 hours or longer, you can schedule one in advance. That'd be a good idea because sometimes it may be a little bit hard to find a driver that's going to do that drive.
Yeah.
But we've had no problem. It's like long distances in China are really normal. Everything is so massive and so big. And most parks are not in the city centers. They're usually like in the boonies on the outskirts. So it's easy.
Okay. And so, right. So we have our apps, we have our hotels booked, we have our transport. Now we need the parks. So how do we book tickets for the parks?
So a lot of parks allow you to purchase tickets at the gate still, but it's got to be one of those things where either you have to go to like the tourist or visitor center because ticket gates are not always a thing anymore. Happy Valley parks are pretty consistent when it comes to like we just roll up and buy a ticket at the actual gate, scan our Alipay, and boom, within seconds we have our tickets. Now, if you're going to any parks in Beijing, like Happy Valley Beijing requires passports to get tickets and visas. Even they verify your visas. I think Beijing is always on a little bit more of like it all depends on the municipality, but Beijing is of course like the capital city, and so everything is a little bit more secure there. And then like the most random place, we were in like Yingtan, like middle of nowhere China, and we had to use passports to get our Phantom Wild tickets, even though at every other Phantom Wild park, which I think we did 13 other Phantom Wild parks that same trip in April. We just booked it on the app and never need our passport to get in, right? So it's just like it kind of depends on the region. I'm pretty sure it's local rules whether or not they need to check your tickets for passports for tickets. Other companies just do it for fraud, like Disney and Universal. Universal is probably because they need to do it because of local municipality. But then for Shanghai Disney, I'm pretty sure it's just like ticket scalping and like Premier Access scalping. They had so many issues with that when the park first opened. Other than that, I book my tickets in advance. So if I go to a Sunek theme park, I book my trip at my ticket on trip.com on the app. All Sunek parks allow you to book a ticket on there. If I go to Phantom Wild, you use the mini app and Alipay. You can buy a ticket. So you select the park you want to go to, and then you can buy a ticket in the app. They're usually running a great promo. Depending on when you go, there's always a sort of promo going on. That's also a big Chinese thing. There's always promos for everything. There's always discounted tickets. There's always some sort of like free croissant with your coffee kind of thing. It's always something. So use that. Why not? Tickets. Other than that, you can buy them at the park.
Do you have an idea of like not like the Phantom Wild, Sunak parks, things like that? What the average price of a ticket is for a park?
You know what? If you talk for a few seconds, I want to pull up my Alipay and just see what my ticket orders were like. Because honestly, I don't I don't memorize all those things because it's like, man, everything
I understand that.
Even for us, it's kind of a blur. Yeah.
No, I understand that because you've talked about the Phantom Wild, so obviously those are theme park chains. So you have Phantom Wild, and I think everything that's Oriental Heritage, Oriental World is now
Oriental
also
Heritage
Phantom
is
Wild.
always going to be that's just this brand of theme park from Fante, which is the Phantom Wild. Yeah,
gotcha.
Let me see.
And then you have some Sunak parks, but those are less and less, I feel, because the Sunak parks are not doing that great.
Yeah, the Sunak parks have seen better days. Let's face it. Okay, hold up 1 second. I think I have here. So for tickets in Juzhou, we did 2 park. Okay, I got a tickets here for example, we went to Juzhou. Oh no, this is Wuhu maybe. Either way, maybe it's Juzhou. There's so many freaking Phantom Wild parks. So for example, and all of them are like resorts with multiple parks. So for this resort, either Juzhou or Wuhu, I need to go back. I'm just looking at like a bank statement. I paid 348 yuan for 2 tickets for 1 park. So, and based on how quickly I purchased these back to back, I think this is Juzhou goes hit the parks really quickly. So 348 yuan for 2 tickets. Now let me just for shits and giggles, see what it is in USD. So USD is $51 for 2 tickets. For Chinese prices, this is really expensive. For US prices, it's not that bad, but for Chinese prices, it's pretty expensive. And then in euros, that is
so that's less than 50 euros.
Yeah. So for euros, that is going to be €44 and 61 cents. That's 2 tickets for one park.
That's
a lot of these,
pretty decent.
some of these parks, like the Glorious Orient parks, I could spend a whole day there. We actually routinely spend entire days at the Glorious Orient parks. Not everyone's a big fan of the theme of these parks, but man, they're spectacular places. So yeah, that's an example on pricing for the tickets. Shanghai, Disney, and Universal, like I think if you're used to US prices, they'll feel cheaper, but they're still quite expensive. I still remember having kind of sticker shock for my first time going to Universal, being like, man, this place is not worth that money. Now, our opinions changed, and you'll find out in an upcoming episode how we have changed and how the park has improved. But it's not like it's cheap. Like there are definitely upper class activities in China, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, and one something we may have skipped over, and that I want to just mention that's in our show notes, Sven, is I recommend everyone to make a detailed itinerary. If you need help with that, you can reach out on any of the Coast Kings channels. I can kind of show you how we do them. I carry one with me at all times because I go in and out of China a lot, sometimes for work. So I have different kinds of visas. I have different passports because I have Dutch passport and American passport. So maybe my situation is a little bit differently. But sometimes I get questions, and sometimes there's, like an officer, if the officer's doing a really good job or like really kind of persistent on finding out why you're there, then like they may ask for an itinerary. They may ask you where are you going, when are you going there. And you do a digital entry form every time you're going to China. But I always, for peace of mind, I make and print out an itinerary that shows every single day that I'm there, the hotels I'm staying at, the address of the hotels and confirmation numbers. Also for my reference, by the way, in case I ever don't have internet, I have the train numbers, the train ticket numbers, the hotel locations and confirmation numbers. I have all of it on one piece of paper, right? But also in case I get questioned by the authorities or I get questioned by border patrol, like passport control, like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, why are you back again? Or like, wow, you're back already? Oh, wow, really 14 cities in 2 weeks? Like stuff like that. I've had questions. Sometimes it's in like jokingly. Sometimes it's in like looking me up and down, looking at my file a million times and like trolling for my passport. I mean, the other day I stood there for like 10, 15 minutes while Alex was through in like 3 seconds. And I'm like stressed. I'm like, why are you looking at me? Probably because I have like a lot of crew entries into China and I use the automated gates for crew. Like, I don't know what it is, but just for my peace of mind, and this is a recommendation to all of you, carry an itinerary that has your hotels and your trains and your plane tickets and whatever else you use in the country on there. That way, if they need to verify that you're really going on a vacation, then they can just verify that. It's not that deep.
Yeah.
Or in case you need to get access to it because your phone broke or you lost it on a ride. I mean, that'd be the worst case scenario in China. But then you have the hotel names. You can point at it. You can tell your taxi driver or the theme park to translate it and like call you a taxi. That way you have something tangible that has every bit of information that you need to still do your trip. And you can figure out your phone thing. So print that out. And I just do one page, make a nice chart. If you need help, you just message Coaster Kings on social media. I'm happy to help. And then get your hotel theme park, or your hotels and your theme parks, get their names and addresses in Chinese, either on AMAP or on the wherever you book it. Because if you ever need to resort to a taxi and use cash because you don't have a phone, they have their addresses in Chinese, because the taxi drivers are not going to speak English. Nothing you show them in English is going to make any sense to them. They're not going to know what it is. They're not going to know what a Western Shanghai is, or like the Bund. They don't know what that is. So always have it in Chinese as a backup.
And you say in Chinese, so is that something that you can do in the AMAP app then? So you can type it in English and then it will have the Chinese.
Sometimes it can depend. Sometimes I'll just message the hotel real quick. Because I usually take DDs, right? But say that I just wanna, maybe I'm resorting to a taxi because there's a taxi stand right there, or I need to differentiate between two hotels. We've had it before where like the driver thinks they know where they're going. They're so certain that you're going to this Sheraton, and then you end up on the wrong side of the city, but you're really going to a different Sheraton, right? So then I just message the hotel. Usually before I get out of the train or something, like, Marriott Bonvoy, you have the app. You can just chat the hotel, and especially Chinese hotels, the Marriotts are considered really high end. So they'll message you back within like minutes, and they'll send you the address and the name of the hotel completely in Mandarin. And that way, if I need it, I can just like, even to a DD driver, I can be like, hey, this is the hotel, because I've had it a couple times, especially in Shanghai. There's a lot of hotels, a lot of Four Points and Sheratons and Marriotts and whatever, right? And then they insist on knowing better than you do, even though you put it in and you put the address in DD. But then I can be like, no, this is the hotel address. And like, I can show them like, well, this is what I really need to go to. And then usually figure out that they're going the wrong way. But that makes sense. So I just have it for peace of mind. Sometimes it's like redundancy makes things so easy. I've never really had to like stress because like, oh, well, I've got the Chinese address right if I need it kind of thing. It's not like a trip plan like crazy because you know that like sometimes we make our entire 3-week China itinerary 5 days before we leave. Sometimes we don't even know our days off for our trips until like right before, so not like months in advance to have all this stuff ready. I just kind of do it as I call the shots, and then sometimes you have to be really flexible, and then you have to cancel stuff and rebook it when you're there. It just happens, but just have stuff ready that if you need it, you have it. You know, just peace of mind. Yeah.
And maybe before we go to the parks, a different question is, How do you think the Chinese feel about LGBTQ and all that? You know, is it something
we've had really positive
issues
experiences
with or not?
No, not at all. No, not at all. Yeah, I would say it's a really easy country to travel to. Some regions are, of course, a little bit more westernized than others. If you're looking at like Shanghai. I mean, we've seen people walking hand in hand in Beijing. Chengdu is like the gay city in all of China. I mean, pretty sure there's like a joke almost that like every guy in Chengdu is gay. And it's like, I'm not saying that's not my statement. That's like, you know, TikTok joke. Like it's just, it's getting really liberal. Local laws are changing. It's socially pretty more acceptable than it was, I would say, a decade ago. That's where a lot of the world is going kind of backwards on that, unfortunately. I hate to say it, including maybe even here in Europe. China, I feel like, has been making pretty solid improvements on that and pretty steady movement forward. I mean, Alex and I are not hiding that we show up to married hotels and have a king bedroom every single hotel stay, and it's never even a question. It's just been like whatever, you know. It's been kind of whatever, and it's been. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say you're not gonna see like, you know, pride flags hanging out. It's not a thing. You know, it's China, but like, I have no problem. I don't feel unsafe. It's not like an illegal. It's not like it's illegal. It's not like punishable by death or whatever. You know, like it's, you know, like, and they're giving you this perspective here, I guess. I wouldn't be concerned if you had any concerns about that. Yeah,
it's just a general question. Yeah,
yeah.
Some people might have
like
that.
Anyone listening, yeah,
yeah. Okay. Anything else before we go a bit deeper into the parks?
No, I think I've mentioned most of it, and if something comes up, I'll just mention it as we go.
Perfect. Yeah. So, if we go back to our map, so it might be helpful if you're listening to open up the app. So you'll see that what we've covered so far. So the Beijing area, that's more in the north. The Hong Kong area more in the south, and then the east area is obviously Shanghai. But if we go to Shanghai, I think there's some parks that are, like, I consider them in the region based on the map, but I don't really know if they are. So, but I think you've talked about that. Some of it is just like 30 minutes away, like the Soju, is that correct area? Or city? Suzhou, yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Suzhou,
yeah.
Where you have the Suzhou Amusement Land Forest World. Whew, what a mouthful. But there is the Beyond the Cloud coaster, right? So that's one of the...
Correct, yeah. So the nice thing about Shanghai is, and if you're going on your first theme park trip, even though I adore some of the parks over China, and I would always be like, oh man, like Chimelong Ocean Kingdom over anything. I'm not going to be like, first trip ever go to Chimelong Ocean Kingdom, because I just don't think if you're going on your first ever theme park trip that's that realistic, unless you're already in Hong Kong. But say you're trying to do a mainland China, like a PRC trip, People's Republic of China. Shanghai is a great place to start. First of all, it's the most Western place. You're going to find a lot of people speaking English. You're going to have creature comforts. You're going to find Western grocery stores if you need them. Which sometimes if I want some berries, I go get some berries at my little Olé grocery store. It's just like, It's a thing. Anyway, so the nice thing is Shanghai itself is a city, which I will say is a massive city. Like Legoland will take like a good 2-hour drive from the city center but it's still
wow.
but it's still in Shanghai. The Shanghai Haicheng Ocean Park is like a new Pudong area. You think, oh, Pudong is where the airport is, but it's still like, if you're by the skyscrapers in a financial district, that's also Pudong. It's still like an hour drive. So there's quite a bit of distance here. But long story short, there's a lot to do in Shanghai itself as a city, between Happy Valley, Disneyland, the city parks, Haicheng Ocean Park, Legoland, lots to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Ningbo to the south of you, right across the Hangzhou Strait. Now, if you take a train, it takes a while to get to Ningbo. But if you take a Didi from the city, it's really not that difficult because it's right on the other side of the big bridge. So that's technically in a whole different province, but it's really close to Shanghai. And Theme Park Review even says like, oh, it's Fancy Wild Shanghai, but that's not at all what it's called. Don't even Google that. But it kind of shows how close it really is. And then Suzhou, Chengzhou, Wuxi, those are all cities that are like tier 2 cities that are all lined up along Taihu Lake. And they all are pretty much attached to Shanghai. So all of them are really easy to do. You can hop from one to the other. And then you're going to find parks like China Dinosaur Land, Suzhou Amusement Park, Forest World, Forest Land, I should say. You're going to find... sorry, I'm talking so much. I'm brain dead.
I also have Joyland, because for some reason
Joyland.
Starry Sky Ripper was always like this bucket list coaster for me, because I don't know.
100%.
At one point, I was looking at the on ride and I was like, I have to ride this coaster at one point. But like, so if to go to those park a bit out of Shanghai, would you say it's best to use the bullet trains then, or is it more the DDs?
I would say so, except for Ningbo, because Ningbo being right on the other side of a major strait, there's no trains running over the bridge. So you have to go all the way around through Hangzhou, all the way down to Ningbo, just so you end up taking a DD way back up to the strait. So if you look at a map and you see the two parks that are right by the water on the south side of the water near Shanghai, that's North Ningbo. That's the district of Xixi. Now, you don't need to take a train all the way around from Shanghai to Hangzhou down to Ningbo just to take an hour DD back up. It's going to be so much time. So instead, you can just DD all the way down to those parks using that big bridge that's right next to them. Because as you get off the Hangzhou Bay Bridge, the very first exit is at the theme parks, right off of it, right? So then I would say, okay, take a DD, because a train is like one of the few scenarios where a train is not really useful. Now, if you're going to Suzhou, take a train. Take a 30-minute train ride. Stay in the city and then take a train. That's what we always do. And I've done it like a lot of times now. I would say I've probably gone to Suzhou by train maybe 10 times, pretty often. Even just for fun to go to the gardens, because they're beautiful gardens. It's Venice of the East. It's canals and classic architecture and gardens. Now, the next city over, you have Wuxi. Same thing, take a train. And then Wuxi has a really nice metro system. So if you go to Wuxi Sunek Land, from the train station, you take the red line, and at the very end of the red line is the park. So I can just, just take it. And as soon as you get to Wuxi, on your Alipay, you just register and get a metro card. It takes 5 seconds. Boom, bleep, on the metro. So easy. You don't even have to DD. If you feel like DDing, you DD, babe. But if you don't feel like DDing, you want to be on the metro. It's not busy because it's a new metro system. It's a clean metro system. It's chill. It's a vibe. Anyway, so then the next city over, it's all on a line going west, right? The next city over, right there, you've got Chengzhou. And I love Chengzhou. In fact, for a second, I was going to move to Chengzhou. That's a whole different story. Not even worth talking about. And in Chengzhou, you have China Dinosaur Park, which is kind of in downtown, which is really cool because you've got all the big apartment buildings with Dynacon in the middle. Iconic, right? And then south on the lake, on Taihu, there is the Lingshan Buddha, which is also where Joy World is. Now here, I would say take a DD because, girl, this park is nowhere near. If you look on the map, you can see it's actually really close to Wuxi Sunak, but it's in a different city. So that's kind of a thing. So in fact, you could actually do those two together if you really wished, because on the map they're close and you could take DDs between the two.
I remember that the first time you went there, didn't you take a taxi and almost got ripped off? Or
no? So what happened was, this is before Didi and Alipay were were able to be used by Westerners. Really, you needed to have a Chinese bank account to have an Alipay account. So back then, in order to use like a Didi, we couldn't use a Didi yet. This was back before the pandemic, 2019, I think. So and we went to World Joyland, sorry, and we were at open. There was like 5 people, dude, and we got all the rides in, and then we planned on going to China Dinosaur Park same day because we already knew it wasn't gonna be that busy. Now, there was no taxi stand. There was no public transit. There was no way to get out of that place.
Okay.
So we asked the security guard, like, hey, where can I get a taxi? Or can you call us a taxi? Back then, we would just ask people to call us taxis. It was actually not that big of a deal. But we thought they called us a taxi, but they called their friend. And some total stranger just, like, drove us to Dinosaur Park. And that's kind of an adventure. And but we had agreed to, like, pay them up front, like, 200 yuan. You know, sometimes you got to pay extra for the courtesy. But that's no longer needed. That's in the past. Now it's
gotcha.
Didi
that's
forever.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So those parks are all like Shanghai parks. You can all do them. You can do like 2 weeks in Shanghai and do all those parks, man.
Yeah, because that's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, a dozen of parks almost.
14 parks if you include Ningbo. Yeah.
Gotcha. And more in that area, but a bit further down, even to the west, I think you have like, I think a city most people will know about now is Wuhu, or how do you pronounce it?
Yeah, so Wuhu is actually kind of a small city, which is why it's so hilarious that they have 3 major theme parks.
Yeah, and also really it's the origin of something people claim to have impacted the world for a few years, you know?
No, that's Wuhan, babe. That's different.
Wuhan. Oh, see, that's how much I know about China. It's messing
close,
up.
But different. So Wuhu is actually a really, really small city. So Wuhu is really close to Hefei. And Hefei is where you have Sorma Dragon, the giant intimate shuttle hypercoaster that we talked about last episode. So listen to that episode. So we did it from Hefei. We just took a train to Wuhu. I think it's like 30 minutes. So we combined those. But it's also close to Nanjing. So if you're feeling ready to be like, okay, we did Shanghai. We want to do a little bit more. Now you can move into the Nanjing. Because Nanjing is not even that far from Changzhou. So when you're already in Changzhou where China Dinosaur Park is, I think only like 30 to 40 minute train ride from Nanjing. Now Nanjing is historically awesome. We did a whole episode on that. It's called Nanjing is King. This was last season or 2 seasons ago. I can't remember. There was an episode and they have a lot of history. If you're a World War II aficionado, you'll know how sad the history of Nanjing is. There's many things that happened in Nanjing over many, many years, but there's awesome history there. Awesome museums, awesome historical sites, but also some pretty good theme parks, including Happy Valley Nanjing and Dragon Valley. But that's also not far from Wuhu, really close to Wuhu, actually. So you can do the 3 parks in Wuhu, and then Hefei is right there. You can do that park. So if you feel like, all right, next little region, move yourself over to a hotel in Nanjing, and then do the parks that are in Hefei, Wuhu, and Nanjing. See, like, these are just the pockets that I've been talking about for a couple episodes now. These little pockets are king. You don't want to drag your luggage from park to park to park to park to park. Go get a hotel in Shanghai for a week, 2 weeks, and do all the parks or bullet train. And if the weather is shit, you can move your plans around, right? Go to Nanjing, park yourself there for like a week, and do the Nanjing parks to the Wuhu parks to Hefei. Stuff like that is just the best way to go, in my opinion. So that's another little micro region you can do.
Gotcha. When I look at the map, like based on the map, between Beijing and Shanghai, there's like the northeast China region that I indicated, and there I put Jinan and Jinying. Is that correctly?
Let's see where you're looking at right now.
Because I feel Jinan, that's where you have the Quancheng Euro Park, so that's like the Chinese idea of Europa Park. Is that like a good description of that park, or
not quite? I don't even know how to describe the place. Imagine like a giant Disney castle that's like a little ripoff, which is actually really nice inside, like a museum, and then a bunch of really loosely themed areas that may include like a tiny like Efteling ripoff that has tigers. Like physical life tigers in it. I don't know. It's really rando. But it is inspired by European landmarks. It's like the aesthetic. Yeah. Okay. So Jinan, great point. So we actually stayed in Jinan for 5 nights, and from Jinan We did the Tai'an, which if you go to Tai'an, I
That's more to
beseech
the
you.
south of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I beseech you to go to Taishan, because that is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but like to Chinese culture, incredibly important. You can look it up. Mount Tai, Taishan. Too much to talk about in this episode. We'll discuss it in an episode we already recorded. So it's going to come out in a couple of weeks. Tai'an and Jinan parks. Listen to it. Anyway, definitely need to go there. And then Jining is right there too. And then we even combined Suzhou, but Suzhou with an X. So slightly different pronunciation.
Yeah.
And we combined
Doesn't
all that
help,
because of bullet trains. Yeah. So
doesn't help that it's
bullet
so
trains.
similar, but yeah.
So then there you've got a bunch of parks too, because you got 2 Phantom Wild parks, I believe. No, sorry, there's only 1 Phantom Wild park there. 1 Phantom Wild park in Jinan. You've got Quancheng Euro Park. You've got the Sunak Land, and then you've got your Tai'an Phantom Wild Adventure, Jining Glorious Orient, Suzhou Phantom Wild Wonderland, Suzhou Amusement Land. And those can all be done by just staying in Jinan. And Jinan is a pretty nice city. I actually really enjoyed my time in Jinan. Good food, a really nice metro system. Jinan's a good city. I think it's a good home base if you're going to do that little region of parks. You can take trains to all the parks that we've mentioned, which you made one layer, right, Sven? As for that section?
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
like
cool.
That's the northeast of China. I'm not sure if all those that you mentioned are in that area, but
if not, we can change that.
Yeah, we can change that, because then we go more to the central China area, and there we have Changsha. Is that correctly
That's
pronounced?
right, Changsha. So Changsha, and I'm scrolling to Changsha myself. Changsha is a great city. Lots of history as well. Mao, the original president after modern China's creation of the PRC, is from there. So there's a big statue there of him. It's kind of, especially to the Chinese, kind of iconic. So that's, if you've seen a picture of that, that's from Changsha. Quite a modern city. Some really nice neighborhood. There's a lake called, oh my God, Meishi Lake. And Meishi Lake is beautiful. We stayed right there at Meishi Lake. There's a really nice art museum there, the Cultural Arts Center. It was designed by Hadid with the beautiful folds. Anyway, I think it's a really great city. And if you're looking for nature, Changsha is really nicely centrally located. And Changsha is a hidden gem because it took us a while to go. We only went just this April. And we went because it was central and there was a couple parks in Changsha. Then there's a cities out of it, kind of small. And that city is called Juzhou. And Juzhou has a couple of Phantom Wild parks. And then there's another city right next to it that is Jingtan. And Jingtan is technically a different city, but not far from there is also a Phantom Wild park. So around there's lots to do. And then in the very east of the city, Changsha, of course, is also a pretty big city. There's a Phantom Wild Oriental Heritage that we went to. And all of these will be discussed in separate episodes. So that's actually all in Changsha itself, pretty much. Now, then we took a train out to Nanchang from there, which maybe took an hour and a half from Nanchang, which is where you have the coast to the clouds. And then we also went to Yingtan from there, which is maybe another hour from there. And again, bullet trains are great because you look at a map, you're like, bro, you're talking about staying at one hotel and traveling across half the country. But a bullet train is a bullet train. Like 2.5 hours later, you've traveled so far, but you have a whole park day ahead of you. So I'm a big fan, right? So I would definitely recommend doing that. And then if you like national parks, which a lot of people have heard of, Heaven's Gate, which is the 999 stairs up through the giant mountain that has like a grotto through it. And that is right next to Zhangjiajie National Park. And that's where you have like the Avatar Mountains, right? Like that Avatar's inspired about, like all like the rock formations with like plant growth on it. And then all the clouds around it that makes them look like they're floating. Spectacular place. So we went and we took a bullet train out there and did a day there. And we did both of those. My legs still hurt from all the hiking. We hiked so much, Sven. I think we...
But you took the bullet train from Changsha.
From Changsha, yep. So all this is very doable if you just stay in Changsha. We stayed in Changsha for I think about a week and did all of that. And then we took a train to Guilin, which is just a little bit east of the national forest. So that is just like a great way to again pick like a pocket of parks. And this is a great example of how you need to be flexible because the distance that we traveled was quite large, right? So we had 2 days in Changsha where it was a complete washout, nonstop rain, could not do anything. But then we saw that in Nanchang, it was going to rain for 2 days, but then there was really sunny 2 days that it was raining in Changsha. So you can tell that the weather was moving towards Changsha, right? So now it was clear in Nanchang. So we moved all of our plans around and we just canceled the train tickets and trip and I just booked new ones and got reimbursed, right? And we moved literally every single day around. I rebooked all my train tickets and we had good weather at every single place we went, despite it raining for half the week in every single city. We just navigated around the weather. It was awesome. We got everything done.
Gotcha. And the weather, you check in the Alipay app as well?
Actually, I guess use Google for that because it's really location based. Yeah, or like, whatever, if you use AccuWeather. There's only so much accuracy in any of that anyway. But yeah.
Gotcha. Then if we go more to the west of China, you talked, was it Chengdu that you said is like the gay city of the
Chengdu is like a gay city, fashion capital of China. There's a really famous fashion street. If you were in the TikTok area in 2020 and there was like the Chinese fashion videos where they're like walking slowly with their fashion and the music, that's all in Chengdu. Alex and I went to the fashion street. And there's a million photographers and they took a bunch of photos also of us, which I guess we're kind of used to, but it was kind of weird at the same time. Chengdu was awesome. Chengdu is pretty modern. Chengdu and Chongqing are really close together. Sichuan, if you want to eat the Sichuan food, is awesome. I'm not the biggest fan because I like to taste my food and not have my mouth numb, but to each their own. Yeah, beautiful landscapes.
Yeah, and coaster-based, I saw that the Happy Valley Park there looked quite interesting. And
it's one of the original Happy Valleys. Definitely recommend. They did. That's a nice park. Yeah.
Yeah, and potentially, but that's a bit under discussion right now. The All Speeds Taron clone to see if the park, what the current state of the park is.
The coaster may have reopened last month, but I'm not so sure about that. So don't take our word for it. But RCDB shows it open. I'd be surprised if that was true. But who knows?
Some preparation before to going there. And then in the southwest of China, I think we have Kunming. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the city is Kunming, the province is Yunnan. Now, the Yunnan province, probably my favorite province in China. It is gorgeous. And so it's right on the border with Laos, Myanmar, Bhutan, Vietnam. So you can already tell like the South Asian cultures there are really blend, and it's the last province that have like a really wide variety of ethnicities that still live. Maybe a more traditional housing and architecture styles are all still really present, and it's really cool because it's so pretty, and there's so many gorgeous landmarks. And we went and took a train down. This is not a theme park. We went down to the Kingdom of Dali, the old Kingdom of Dali. Now it's just the city of Dali. And we went to the 3 pagodas and we hiked the old palace behind it and all the temples. And it was one of my favorite things I've ever done. It was so spectacular. It was so gorgeous. And the Kunming itself sits on Jianxi Lake, which has 2 theme parks on it. One theme park is, of course, Colorful Yunnan Paradise. And the other one is Dagwan Lake. Or Dagwan Park, and we went there. It was nice. Yeah, I think it's a really fun city. I would recommend. Best vegetarian food, in my opinion. Also, if you like vegetarian food. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And you said the Colorful Yunnan Paradise. That's where all the coasters have like the basic names, like Wing Coaster.
Yeah, and for like the basic names of Wing Coaster and Launch Coaster. And I will say Tiger Leaping Gorge is a nice name. That's named after the actual gorge in Lijiang. But the rides themselves are spectacular themed. They're some of the nicest and coolest themed roller coasters in the world. Really, really nice park. It felt like a Chamang Ocean Kingdom, but then like more like just like Yunnan themed. Very, very spectacular park. Definitely recommend going if you're for some reason out on that side of the country. Which why wouldn't you go that side of the country? Because Yunnan is gorgeous. You would want to definitely visit that park for sure.
Cool. And then the last region I wanted to talk about is more in the south of China again. So we've talked about Hong Kong. but also there you have Guangzhou. No,
So you have Guangzhou, and Shenzhen
okay.
are right there, and of course Zhuhai.
I think
and
people have
Macau.
heard about Shenzhen. That's like the
Shenzhen is like the Silicon Valley of China, really.
Yeah, that was always
So one thing to note here, everyone, and if you've been listening for a while, you probably noticed, or if you are geopolitically informed, you notice. But Hong Kong, Macau, and the PRC are three different places. There's three different administrative regions, special administrative regions, SARS. So China itself, of course, is like the main country, right? The People's Republic of China. So Zhuhai, which is where China Mochi Kingdom is, or Guangzhou, which is where you have Sunagland, Guangzhou, and you have Charlong Paradise, and Shenzhen, where you have Shenzhen Happy Valley, Window to the World, OCT East. That's all in the PRC. That's the same country we've been talking about the whole time. Now, Macau and Hong Kong are their own like SARs. And what that means is that when it comes to diplomacy and to passports, they're practically regulated as their own countries. They're their own special regions. They are not PRC. So, for example, you can get access to Hong Kong for pretty much any major Western passport, but it doesn't mean you can get into the mainland. It does not mean you can go to China itself. So you want to make sure that you have all that aligned. Same with Macau. Macau is, ex-Portuguese. It's its own SAR. You want to make sure you have all of that aligned before you go. You don't show up and think, I'm going to go to Hong Kong and Zhuhai, or Hong Kong and Guangzhou, because it's not that easy, if that makes sense. Anyway.
Yeah, there you have to make sure that you have everything you need, because but then Guangzhou has, of course, the Sunak Land with the Dueling Dragons coaster.
Yep.
So I guess that is a highlight coaster for China, I suppose. And then, in Macau, that's where you have Chimelong Ocean Kingdom, right?
Chimelong Ocean Kingdom is in Henqing Bay, which is in South Zhuhai. Macau is just aligned right next to it. So if you look at a map, you see Macau. It's like a little island, right? And that's two little islands, really one peninsula and an island. So you've got the Cotai part and you've got the old part of Macau. Now that is its own, its own region, SAR, country, whatever makes most sense to the listener to understand how it's different. So, for example, Alex and I, we stayed in Macau for 2 nights in April at the W. We could see the park from the hotel. However, in order to get to the park, we had to take the light rail from the hotel to the border crossing on the Cotai side. And then when we got to the border crossing in Henqing, we had to go through formalities where we left Macau and then we entered China, right? And so in order to do that, this is actually one of the few border crossings where it's all done at once. So there's 2 officers in the booth. One is from Macau and one is from the People's Republic of China. And so they stamp you out, and then the little gate opens up, and then you go to the next holding pen, and some officer from China will process you in. You have to fill out all your paperwork just like you do whenever you go to China, and then you go into China. And on the way out, it's the same process but reversed. So you have to go through all that. And I think for us it took kind of a while because it wasn't that well staffed and it wasn't moving very fast. So you have to build in that time. Even though you can see the park, you're in a different country, and the border is not wide open. So country, I hate saying country because it's all China.
Yeah.
But, they're SARs. So, long story short, if anyone don't get offended by any of my terminology. I'm just trying to make it make sense to anyone listening.
Yeah.
How it works.
And just to be sure, what do you mean with SAR?
So, SAR stands for Special Administrative Region.
Okay.
Or Special Autonomous Region of China. So, it's owned by China, but it's not necessarily governed by China. The government for the PRC is different than the government from Macau, different from the government from Hong Kong. Gotcha. Even though there's then still influences from the main Chinese government. Yeah, it's complicated. It's complicated. So much for modern geopolitical geopolitics. Anyway, so then you go, and then it's like only like a 5 or 10 minute drive to the park once you actually cross the border. And we use Didi, as per usual with Didi.
And does Didi exist then in Hong Kong?
No, in Hong Kong you use Uber.
Okay.
Yeah, and in Macau you use Uber too.
So in Hong Kong you don't necessarily need to use the Alipay app.
Correct. I don't use. So another thing. So in Hong Kong and in Macau, Alipay doesn't work. The Alipay that you need for the mainland that has been like westernized to the point where Westerners can use it. That doesn't exist. You cannot use that in Hong Kong or Macau. There's Alipay HK and Alipay Plus, but those apps are not Western friendly. So they cannot use those as a Westerner. And you need your own currencies. They don't accept. Well, I will say in Macau they'll take a Chinese yuan, but in Hong Kong they use a Hong Kong dollar. And once we got away with using yuan because we were out of Hong Kong dollars, and the driver was like, we were at the airport, and we were like, "Oh, hands are tied. Like, you want to wait here for a while for us to find an ATM?" And eventually he's like, "Oh, we're going to just take a yuan." I was like, "Great," because we have like thousands of yuan on us. Like, take our yuan. But generally speaking, in Hong Kong, and then not all taxis in Hong Kong take credit card, but in Macau they do. Hong Kong is strangely antiquated in some regards. Not gonna lie, like Hong Kong is. I mean, I would move to Hong Kong if I had the money. I love Hong Kong to death. Don't get me wrong, but in some ways, like paying taxi drivers and stuff for needing Hong Kong dollars, it's all a little bit antiquated. Cannot even use yuan, even though it's already part of China again. So yeah, but Alipay, you use it in mainland exclusively. You don't use it in Hong Kong or Macau.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I think we went through quite some information here. Thank you, Sean, for all those explanations. And I really hope, well, I learned a lot, and I really hope that our listeners that have been listening to this episode also learned a lot more about traveling to China and are now more intrigued to put the different theme parks on their list and to visit the country.
100%. And of course, we didn't talk about the parks themselves as much this time. We just name dropped a lot of them. We barely even discussed what's inside of them. If you want to know more about that, a lot of these parks I've already discussed in the past. You can scroll through all of our 200 plus episodes and find them. And then there's also going to be about 30 parks, if not more, discussed in this upcoming season. So a lot of these regions we talked about. In fact, in 2 weeks from now, I think we're doing a lot of the Shanghai region parks, like a redoing all the parks. So we just did another Shanghai trip also. So if you want to learn more about these parks, your opportunity will come. We have a lot of stuff already scheduled. We have a long list of episodes we're building. And for those that missed our last episode, we were changing our format for Chinese episodes. Most people have decided, and I'm okay with that they prefer shorter format for China because, and I get it, most people, and we've seen this historically throughout our listener numbers, they're not necessarily as interested in China, or maybe China is just too daunting. Like, do they really need to know about Glorious Orient, Jining, or Phantom Wild, or at the Heritage in Yingtang? Maybe not. So we're doing shorter formats. You can pick and choose what you want to listen to. We're doing some interesting themes. Like we did our Chinese Intamin Power Duo last week about 2 mega coasters that they're from Intamin in China. So that way you can kind of pick and choose what you want to listen to. So that's going to be our new format, shorter format, but still lots of China coming up.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Sean, again for guiding us through. And as I mentioned, it will help me already for my trip next year to
And
Asia,
Sven would help us as a podcast. Anyone listening right now would give us a 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify.
We deserve it. That. We deserve it for this episode.
I'm really hoping genuinely that helps people. I'm hoping, this is just how we do things, and so far hasn't led me astray. So I'm hoping anyone that's listening, if you have any more specific questions about it, like I said, our DMs are open. That sounds kind of weird. Just like, send us a message, man. Like we'll help you out. We got you.
Yeah, perfect. And then also, of course, on all our socials, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, etc. to find more China content, but also obviously other content, Coaster Kings related, from Europe, from the US, all over the world. Give us a follow. And as Sean mentioned, if you have questions, you can obviously send us, and we'll help you out the best we can. Anything else, Sean?
No, I think that's it. I think we're at a beautiful number, 90 minutes.
Well, have a wonderful rest of your day, and until next time.
Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.
Bye.